You can be agreeable or you can be powerful. History has never once handed you both. Somewhere right now, a man is agreeing to something he doesn't believe, in a meeting he didn't want to attend because he has confused being liked with being safe. He will go home tonight and wonder why the room moved on without him. He did everything right. He was kind. He was easy to work with. He never once made anyone uncomfortable. That was his mistake. This isn't only a mistake men make at work. It's the same mistake wearing 4 different costumes. The office, the relationship, the household, the table where 2 people negotiate for something they both want. Different rooms, same audit running underneath every one of them. If things got hard right now, who in this room would we actually rely on? The nice guy never asked that question. He's too busy making sure nobody in the room feels a moment of friction. And so, 4 different ways, in 4 different rooms, the world quietly stops asking him for anything that matters. There are 2 currencies in any room full of people, being liked and being needed. Most men spend their entire careers chasing the first one, believing it's the cheaper, safer path to the second. It isn't. They're not even the same currency. You cannot exchange one for the other, no matter how much of it you accumulate. The naive employee believes influence is downstream of affection. He believes that if enough people find him pleasant, agreeable, easy, authority will simply be given to him the way a gift is given to a friend at a party. So he smooths every edge off himself. He absorbs the slight without answering it. He says no worries when there were in fact worries. He mistakes the absence of conflict for the presence of respect. And for a while it works, or seems to. He is invited to every lunch. He is trusted with nothing that matters. Because the moment a decision actually counts, the promotion, the reorganization, the crisis, the room does not turn to the man who agreed with everyone. It turns to the one who didn't need to. People do not follow the man who needs them to like him. They follow the man who does not. This isn't cruelty, it's architecture, the oldest architecture there is. Go back far enough and a human group was a survival unit before it was anything else. Status inside that unit was never handed out for comfort. It was handed out for capacity, who could be trusted to make the hard call when the group's safety was on the line. The person constantly scanning the room for approval was, by definition, not that person. He was busy managing the group's feelings about him instead of managing the group's actual problems. That calculation didn't disappear when we moved indoors. It got quieter, but it never left. Every boardroom is still running the same ancient audit. If the tribe were under threat tonight, who in this room would we actually put in charge? Nobody says this out loud. Nobody has to. The nervous system does the math on its own, instantly, before a single word is spoken. Likability is a signal that says, I am safe to be around. Respect is a signal that says, I am safe to rely on. The first one costs nothing to fake. Anyone can fake it for an evening. The second one can only be earned by demonstrating repeatedly that your approval is not for sale, that you will tell the room what it needs to hear, even when it costs you the room's warmth. Picture a man named Aldrich, a composite, not a real figure, but a familiar type. He ran operations at a mid-sized shipping firm for 11 years. He was, by every account, the nicest man on the floor. He remembered everyone's birthday. He covered shifts nobody wanted. He never raised his voice, not once, not even the year the warehouse flooded and half the inventory sat ruined in 6 inches of water. When the firm was sold, the new owners kept 40 of the 60 employees. Aldrich was not one of them. The woman who replaced him, Merritt, had been at the company only 3 years. She was not universally loved. She had told a senior partner in front of the full floor that his shipping projections were fantasy math and she wouldn't sign off on them. She had said no to overtime requests that Aldrich would have quietly approved just to keep the peace. People did not always enjoy working for Merritt, but when the new owners walked the floor asking who actually ran the place, every finger, including Aldrich's, pointed to her. Aldrich had spent 11 years being agreeable. Merritt had spent 3 years being unmistakable. Only one of those things survives an acquisition. Stop managing how people feel about you in the moment. Start managing what they can count on you for over time. The next time you feel the old pull at work, to soften the honest answer, to laugh at something that wasn't funny, to say yes when the correct word is no. Stop. Ask yourself a single question. Am I doing this because it's true, or because I'm afraid of the 3 seconds of discomfort that would follow if I didn't? If it's the second reason, you already know what to do. Say the true thing. Say it without cruelty, but say it without apology either. Let the silence sit there afterward instead of rushing to fill it with reassurance. That silence is not a wound. It's the sound of the room recalibrating what it thinks you're capable of. The same failure shows up at the dinner table of a marriage, or across from someone on a third date, wearing a gentler face but doing identical damage. The naive partner believes affection is preserved by removing all friction from it. He never disagrees about the restaurant. He never says which of her friends drains him. He apologizes first in every argument, regardless of who was right, because an apology ends the discomfort faster than the truth does. He believes this makes him easy to love. It makes him easy to leave, because attraction, in any long-term bond, is not sustained by comfort alone. It requires a small, constant current of uncertainty, the sense that the other person is a full, separate will, capable of wanting things you don't want, capable of walking away if the relationship stopped being worth their time. Remove that current entirely, and what's left isn't peace. It's a roommate arrangement with better manners. Devotion without a spine reads as dependency, and nobody stays attracted to what they no longer have to work to keep. Human attraction is not primarily a response to kindness. It's a response to demonstrated value. And value, in any evolutionary sense, has always meant scarcity plus capability. A partner who agrees to everything is signaling, without meaning to, that their preferences don't cost anything to override, and nothing humans are drawn to has ever been something with no cost to override. This is why the partner who occasionally, calmly says no, I'd rather not do that, is not damaging the bond. He's the only thing preventing it from flattening into something the other person can predict perfectly, and nothing kills desire faster than perfect predictability. The nervous system reads unpredictability, held with warmth rather than cruelty, as evidence of a person still fully present, still exercising judgment, still choosing you rather than defaulting to you. Take a composite figure, call him Denis. 3 years into a relationship, Denis had not disagreed with his partner Ilsa about anything larger than which show to watch, in as long as either of them could remember. He believed this made the relationship unusually stable. Ilsa, for her part, began describing him to her sister not as her partner, but as easy, a word she used the way you describe a piece of furniture that never needed adjusting. The relationship did not end in a dramatic betrayal. It ended in Ilsa quietly realizing she could not remember the last time Denise had wanted something badly enough to risk her displeasure to get it, and that she had, somewhere along the way, stopped being curious about who he actually was underneath all that agreement. Stop treating your own preferences as negotiable line items to be dropped the instant they create friction. Have opinions about the restaurant. Say the uncomfortable thing when it's true. Let your partner occasionally lose an argument to you, cleanly and without cruelty, so that winning one against you still means something. This isn't about manufacturing conflict. It's about refusing to erase yourself in order to keep the peace, because the version of you worth staying for is the one with edges, not the one with none. The pattern repeats again at home, across the kitchen table, this time aimed at children instead of colleagues or partners. The naive parent believes that being liked by his children in the moment is the same as raising children who will respect him later. So he negotiates every boundary. He rescinds every consequence the instant it produces tears. He wants more than almost anything to be the parent his kids describe as the fun one. And he gets his wish right up until the moment he needs them to actually listen to him about something that matters. Children, it turns out, run the same ancient audit adults do. They are extraordinarily good at detecting which adults in their life will hold a line and which ones will fold under enough pressure. And once that detection happens, once a child learns which adult is negotiable, that adult's authority on everything else erodes with it, a child does not need a parent who is liked in every moment. A child needs a parent who can be trusted to mean what he says. A child's sense of safety is built less from constant approval and more from predictable structure. The discovery that certain boundaries do not move no matter how much pressure is applied to them. That discovery is, counterintuitively, what produces trust, not resentment. An unmoving boundary tells a child two things at once. The world has stable edges, and the adult enforcing them is secure enough not to need the child's momentary approval to feel like a good parent. The parent who folds under tears in order to feel loved in the moment is, without realizing it, teaching his child a much larger lesson than the one about bedtime or screen time. He's teaching the child that adults can be worn down, and that lesson doesn't stay contained to the household. It follows the child into every future room with a hierarchy in it. Consider a composite father, Tomas, who prided himself on never being the strict one. Every bedtime negotiation ended in 15 extra minutes. Every no softened into a "we'll see," which both of them understood meant yes. His daughter, at 8, had already learned exactly how many times she needed to ask before an answer changed. What worried Tomas's own mother, watching from across the table one holiday, wasn't the extra 15 minutes. It was watching her granddaughter test him on something larger, whether she had to listen when he told her to stop something dangerous near the stove, and watching the girl pause, calculate, and keep going, because the pattern had already been set. His no is not really a no. Stop confusing your child's temporary disappointment with your failure as a parent. Set the boundary once, state it plainly, and hold it, not harshly, but completely, even when the tears arrive on schedule, because they will. The tears are not evidence you were wrong. They are evidence the boundary is real enough to test. Your children do not need you to be their favorite person in every individual moment. They need to grow up inside a structure solid enough to lean their whole weight against. And that structure cannot be built by a man who needs their approval more than he needs their eventual respect. And finally, the same failure appears in its most literal form, across an actual table, where two parties want different things, and one of them has decided in advance that being disliked during the process is a cost too high to pay. The naive negotiator believes that warmth extended early will be repaid with generosity later. He wants the other side to leave the room thinking well of him, so he concedes first, concedes visibly, and signals, often before a single term has been discussed, how much he wants the deal to happen. He believes this goodwill will be banked and returned. It is rarely returned. It's spent immediately by the other side the moment they realize how much room they have to take. The first person at the table who needs to be liked has already told the other side exactly how much they can take. Negotiation is not, at its core, a conversation about numbers. It's a conversation about who can tolerate the discomfort of an unresolved silence the longest. Every human nervous system is wired to find that silence uncomfortable. The pause after an offer, the flat refusal to fill the air with reassurance. Most people break that silence out of instinct, not strategy, because holding it feels, physiologically, like risking the relationship itself. The negotiator who has made peace with being disliked for a few uncomfortable minutes is the only one in the room not driven by that instinct. He can let the silence sit. He can let an offer be rejected without immediately sweetening it out of anxiety. And because he is the only person in the room not performing likability, he is, without saying a word, communicating that he does not need this deal as badly as the other side assumed. A composite account, a small manufacturer, run by a man named Okafor, was buying components from a much larger supplier. The supplier's representative arrived warm, complimentary, quick to laugh, and quick, within the first 10 minutes, to mention how much he wanted this to be a good relationship for both of us. Okafor said very little. When the first number came across the table, he didn't counter it. He simply said, "That doesn't work," and let the silence that followed sit there, uncorrected, for 11 full seconds. The representative filled it. He always did. By the end of the meeting, the number had moved twice, and it was Okafor, the less agreeable man in the room, the one who never once mentioned wanting a good relationship, who left with the better contract. Stop treating the other side's comfort as your responsibility during a negotiation. Let silence exist without rushing to soften it. State your position once plainly, and then let it stand. Resist the urge to immediately justify, qualify, or sweeten it the moment the room goes quiet. You are not required to be liked at the table. You are required to be taken seriously. And those two outcomes, more often than people want to admit, are direct opposites of each other. I'll admit something I don't enjoy admitting. I spent a long stretch of my own life running every one of these 4 patterns at once. The agreeable employee, the frictionless partner, the parent who folded, the negotiator who apologized his way to a worse deal, all without noticing they were the same failure wearing different clothes. I told myself I was being a team player, a good partner, a gentle father, an easy person to deal with. What I was actually doing was outsourcing my spine to whoever occupied the room with me, one conversation at a time, and calling the exhaustion that followed being easygoing. It took losing something I actually wanted, I'll leave the specifics out, to someone half as skilled but twice as willing to be disliked in the moment before the lesson landed. Not through anyone telling me. Through the flat, undeniable arithmetic of the outcome. Skill lost to spine, it usually does. Every person eventually has to choose which they want more. A room that always smiles at them, or a room that would put its future in their hands. You rarely get both, and the ones who chase the first their whole life tend to discover too late that a room full of people who like you is not the same thing as a room that would fight to keep you in it. The office, the relationship, the household, the table, 4 different rooms running the same silent audit underneath every conversation you'll ever have in them. None of those rooms are asking whether you're pleasant. They're asking whether you're load-bearing. Power was never about being loved by everyone. It was always about being indispensable to someone. And indispensability has never once been built out of agreement.